Hello everyone, this is your host Vaibhav. In today's session of Daily Stock, we are going to look at the earnings of the Honeywell Technologies, which provide security solutions to the different segments, and it covers literally anything from land to air, and of course on water included. And why I'm saying that simply because the aerospace segment, the building material suppliers, as well as for commercial automobile segment, it provides security solutions, and it has various products and services which help secure the transportation, the living environment for the users. And as a result of that, it has been a company of choice for the customers as well as for the investors because it is in a unique position where it has commendable goodwill in the market, and in the recent quarter it has been growing consecutively, and I think it is not really going to stop growing in the year 2024 as well. And as we are now through the first quarter of 2024, I feel its guidance, which is pointing to the further growth in the ongoing year as well, is likely to hold well. And in this session, we are going to look at the fourth quarter earnings for the fiscal year 2023 to get insights into the its recently released earnings report to see if there are any markers for us to decipher the company's growth trajectory, and afterwards look for the profitable opportunities to trade and invest after considering the fundamental as well as technical aspects of its growth. If we look at the highlights of the company's quarterly earnings, which were announced back in February, it has shown growth on most of the parameters. Its bottom line is growing, its top line is growing, and there has been also margin expansion in some of the segments. Not all the segments, but some of the segments in which it is present have seen the margin expansion as well. So overall, it's a balanced picture of growth, and its earnings are closer to the top of its guidance provided earlier. Now, if we consider the actual numbers, you will see that the EPS was higher, and it stood at $1.91 for the quarter, and for the whole year, it was. I think we will have to look the consolidated statement of income for the full year figures. This is the guidance which we will look at it later. Now, if we see the consolidated statement of operations here, the 2023 was a good year for the company, and it continued to do well. And in the current environment where many of the companies have struggled to grow and do well, the Honeywell is showing remarkable resilience, and in the ongoing quarter as well, it is likely to post further growth. If we consider these figures of net income, the net income has grown more than 20% year on year. This is the figure for fourth quarter of fiscal year 2022, and this one is for the fourth quarter of 2023. So you can see that the income has grown from 1.02 billion US dollars to now US dollar 1.24 billion. And for the full year, the earnings have grown, but in more in lesser percentage, but still it is in double digit. So that's a remarkable story in itself, because year on year, if your profits are growing in double digits, then I think that should be considered unstoppable. at least in near future. If we consider the top line, the net sales were up, but here the difference is not that much in the percentage terms. There was 3% growth in net sales, and for the full year figure, the growth is of around 2 percentage point. But on the back of this revenue growth, the net income growth has been quite better, and that is simply because there has been margin expansion for the company, and as a result of that, it was able to clock these high double-digit growth, even though the net revenue is not growing that fast, and that attributed to this higher growth in the EPS as well. Going to its forward guidance now. Let me Okay, here it is. The sales are expected to be in the ballpark of $38 billion, which will be pointing to the growth of 4 to 6 percentage point. The segment margin is likely to remain phenomenal at upward of 23 percentage point. With it, the margin expansion is likely to happen in the ballpark of 50 basis point. The free cash flows are expected to be in the range of $5.6 billion to 6 billion. Overall, this is a picture of growth. Now we consider its cash flow statement as well. Here is the cash flow statement. All right. The operating cash flow stood at $2.9 billion, which is higher in comparison to the 2.3 billion US dollars made by the company from the operations a year back. This is also pointing to the high double-digit growth in the cash flows from the operations. Of it, the company used almost $500 million for the investment purpose. There was not much of a change in this spending, and for the financing activity, the company indeed increased its cash outflow a lot, and that is attributable to this. Let me see why this number is this higher this time around. Because if we see and compare the cash flows from these two different financial years, you will see that this time around the Honeywell hasn't really issued any long-term debt, which it did a year back, and that has contributed to the difference of almost 3 billion US dollars, because in the prior year it had raised US dollar 2.95 billion from the proceeds of the long-term debt, and this time around it is more on repayment spree. It has paid back some of the prior borrowings and not made any additional borrowing, and as a result of that there is this cash outflow for the financing activity. Overall, it had been able to grow its cash and cash equivalent kitty to now almost $8 billion, with modest increase of 155 million US dollars in the last year. Now we head to the technical side of the story to see if there are emerging opportunities for us to trade and invest. There is the chart with the each candle pair defined at weekly. So basically we are looking for the longer term trading and investing opportunity here. And if you look at this chart for last couple of years, particularly after this 2020 sharp slide, you will see that it has been growing, and since the second half of 2022, it has gone in a consolidation phase. There is not much of an momentum on the either side. For a couple of weeks, it continues to grow. Then after a couple of weeks, it starts to decline and continues to do so for another couple of weeks, and then it reverses direction again. And that has been the story for last couple of years here. And now we are in growing phase, and I expect it to at least climb toward this prior swing high, which is there about 220 level. That is not really far off from the current price levels in percentage term, but if you consider that if it does so, then it will be almost first time since the second half of 2020 first, that is the fourth quarter of 2021. Since then it will be reaching this beyond 220 level for the first time if it successfully does that. So I'm looking at that possibility, and for that we will have to keep an eye on the near term price performance of the Honeywell, and it will be very important for it to break past the immediate swing high of 210, which is around 2.5 percentage point away from the current price levels. And if it does that, then it opens the door for further growth on the higher side, and we can safely assume that it will register at least the growth of 5 to 6 percentage point from there onwards. And there has been reasons on the fundamental side to expect this growth, because it has been doing quite well for last couple of quarters, and its forward guidance is also pointing northward. So taken together, both these pictures are painting the possibility of the further growth in the Honeywell Inc. stock in the coming weeks, coming months. And from the longer term perspective, I feel we have to be cautious because, as I said, it is more of an consolidation phase, and we can expect the growth to pick up in acceleration on the upside only after it clears immediate hurdles, immediate resistance zones, which are there in the price band of 210 to 220, and that has been keeping it low for last couple of quarters. So it will be interesting to see if it changes this time around or not, because on the fundamental side there are reasons for it to break past, but of course, it's a challenging story. Now, turning our gaze to the medium term, the daily stock price formation is also on the similar line. It had grown quite fast from the October 2023 onwards to the end of December, and from there onward, it has been simply consolidating in the upper bracket of this price formation. And in the month of March, it had this steady climb from the 190 level to these price levels beyond 200, and now it is looking at the possibility of extending its upward move towards the immediate swing high of 210. If it does that or not, that will be interesting to see. But in the near term, if you are going for any investment or trading decision with the medium term outlook in mind, I think the immediate swing low of around 195 is going to be key. So if there is some correction, then watch out for the price moves on the lower side. And if it is buffeted on the lower side by this immediate swing low and doesn't really decline past this price level, then I think after two consolidations, we can indeed think about going for a long trade in the Honeywell stock with the expectation of it rising towards 210 at the minimum. So that is the possibility in medium term. Now turning our gaze to the short-term price moves. In the short term, it has already made this formation of higher highs and higher lows. Now it is sitting on the top, and that calls for the wait and watch approach, because we will have to allow it to consolidate first, and if in the next correction it doesn't really decline below the immediate swing low, then that will be a positive scenario for us to trade and invest from the short term perspective as well. But till it does that, I think it is better for us to wait for a couple of sessions for the clarity to emerge. It is showing bullish momentum, and I am expecting it to hold well. But then, looking at the short term horizon, we do have to keep in mind that we can always get it wrong, and that is why I am advising caution here and wait for the next corrective move and consolidation, and then the way it responds to these recent support will determine the next course of action in the next week. So that's all from my side for today's session of Daily Stock, in which we considered the fundamental as well as technical aspects of the Nivel's share price movement, and it looks well poised for further growth in the coming days, coming weeks, coming months. So depending on your time horizon, you can go for the stock price view, and then decide on the trading and investment decisions. Now it's time for me to sign off for the day. I'm taking your leave. If you have found the session informative and useful for your trading decisions, do like and subscribe to the channel. You will be quite delighted to find equally interesting content on the platform. See you next time around. Till then, goodbye.